disciples of the Alter Rebbe, author of the Tanya, his disciples who lived 200 plus years ago, when they were studying a matter of Torah, especially Hasidus, Tanya, and the like, they would, of course, contemplate, meditate upon the teachings. There were Chassidim that could meditate for an hour long on an idea, some even hours long, literally. And as if nothing existed but the world of their meditation. There was once a chassid who came to the marketplace, and he was deep in thought. Before he came to the market, it was by someone's carriage. He put his foot like here, you know, on the foot of the on the stool or the I guess the step to go into the carriage. He put his foot there and then put his hand down. Oh, he was meditating and thinking. Sometime later, the person whose carriage came and went off. And he was still there with his foot up, meditating. That's the power of the mind. That's the power of meditation. We don't have such a talent today, or I don't, for such a length of time. Try 5 minutes. That's difficult. Without the mind wandering. I always tell the half joke, half serious, that 40 years ago, commercials were for a whole minute. Then they were reduced to 30 seconds. Then they became 15 seconds, and today you have a 5-second commercial. It used to be that we could concentrate a whole minute. But then we couldn't, so they had to make a commercial for 30 seconds. Today we can concentrate for 5 seconds without getting distracted. There's so many distractions in life. In the old country, when the shtetl, in the small village that you lived, big news. A cat went across the street. That same cat that went, was in the village a week ago, made news, right? Not that the cat bit anybody, or that's how still, calm. Of course, if there was a pogrom, then it was not still and calm, but regular daily life, not much happening, not much, not much out there to draw your eyeballs to and take your attention away from concentrating on something important in life. Today we have so much taking our concentration away, so many things vying for our eyeballs, especially, if you use a smartphone. And you know what? Got to use a smartphone for something smart. You know what that is? That there should be a class of Tanya. Forgot to do it. I'm doing it now. That's a valuable thing right? So as a result, when it comes to prayer, it's a difficult task that we should be able to focus, and that prayer should be something meaningful. Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you back at Chabad Zurich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We conclude chapter 28 today, that speaks about our thoughts and that how our thoughts can be derailed so easily when we're engaged in something meaningful. Like right now, learning. It's very easy, especially if you got a smartphone that you're using it not so smartly. Very easy to derail ourselves, right? Um, so what happens when we pray and thoughts, extraneous thoughts, enter our minds? So we think, huh, what are my prayers worth? They must be worthless. How is it I'm standing before God. My prayers are precious to him, and therefore should be precious to me. And yet my mind goes astray. So obviously I did not pray properly. Because if I prayed properly, guess what? I wouldn't have foreign thoughts. I wouldn't have extraneous thoughts entering my mind. But in fact, I do. What does that mean? So it means like this. If I only had one soul, then you'd be correct. You have one soul, and that one soul wouldn't allow foreign thoughts to enter. But the fact is, we have two souls, a godly soul and an animal soul. And they're waging war over us, over the person's mind. Who will rule? Who will pervade over the mind of the individual? And each one wants to have exclusive rights in your head. Your animal soul, that you should have extraneous thoughts, foreign thoughts that are meaningless in a time of prayer. And your godly soul that wants that you should focus on the prayers, be connected in the prayers, have a sense of connection. The animal soul doesn't want that. It wants you to, have your worldly thoughts at that time to be engaged. And there's a battle within you. And as a result, your prayers are disturbed by the animal soul's constant push to get in and to control you. So how do you deal with this? So the Alter Rebbe gives a metaphor. He gives of a wicked, uncircumcised heathen, right? A pagan who's wicked. It's a metaphor, right? And since he's wicked, he sees you praying and he just wants to disrupt you. He wants to be disruptive, right? That's what wicked people do. They don't like when good people are doing something. So they want to disrupt that good. So here's this evil person who's trying to disrupt you. And all you want to do is connect in your prayers. What do you do about that disruption? Pay no attention to it. Because if you give it attention, so then you battle with it, it's what happens when you battle with a dirty person. You yourself get dirty. So don't battle. That would be foolish. You'd be a fool to answer this person. Again, he's using this as a metaphor, right? Because this person is just trying to be disruptive, not trying to, you know, learn from you about prayer, learn from you about devotion, about connection to the divine. So since they're not really interested, to respond to them would be highly foolish. Right. Now, obviously, if you could respond, if they weren't mocking you, right? They're mocking you. Again, this is the metaphor. It doesn't mean that that's what's happening when someone does that to you. But if someone is mocking you, there's no conversation. You don't have a conversation with such a person, right? They're being disrespectful. So talk to such a person. So that's the metaphor he's using, that when you're praying, don't engage with your animal soul that's trying to mock you, that you're in the middle of prayer and trying to bring these extraneous foreign thoughts to you that have nothing to do with your prayer, of, you know, about the things maybe you have an anxiety about and that you're going to deal with later on in your day. Don't do it, because that's a filthy person. And if you wrestle with a filthy person, you get filthy. If you wrestle with that disruptive individual, you become a disrupted person, if you will. So all you got to do is recognize that this is where it's coming from and just strengthen yourself to focus more, concentrate more, right? Concentrate more. And what happens, okay, that's a good metaphor. It might be good for the disruptive person that you don't respond to them because you sense on how they're outside of you and trying to be disruptive towards you, right? So that might be an easy thing to do. But maybe to sense that the anxiety that you're having, and therefore your mind is going off from the concentrating on the prayers or concentrating on the mitzvah right now that you're doing of studying, and you're having a challenge because of the anxiety that you're having, which anxiety comes from the animal soul, of course, right? That's where anxiety comes from. It doesn't come from the godly soul. So the fact that that's coming to you and it's making it difficult, and you can't get rid of those foreign extraneous thoughts that have nothing to do with your prayer right now. So you know what you got to do if you can't do that? You have to humble your soul before God and supplicate before God and ask him compassion. Father in heaven, have pity on me. Have pity on your child. And as your child comes from you, so you should have God compassion that I can overcome and rescue me from the turbulent waters. Our minds, we can't shut off. It's like turbulent waters. There's always, thoughts gushing in like those turbulent waters that are trying to drown me. So God, have compassion. So we need to ask God for compassion so we can overcome the turbulent waters that are seeking to overcome me. Because maybe I have an anxiety about something that's coming up. And it's overcoming and then making it difficult for me to concentrate on my prayers. So if you can't push away those foreign thoughts, ask God for help. He will surely help. Okay. Do you have any questions? We may have some disruptive people sometimes online with us. That sometimes happens. All right. Jeremy, thank you for sharing. And Elise also saying they needed to hear this today. Guess what? We all needed to hear it today. You know why? Because it's today's teachings. Some of some of us, we recognize it more clearly, but the truth is for all of us. But yes, thank you for that. Why is a disruptive person a pagan? A fellow Yid. Again, that's why I said, Alice, I said it's a metaphor, right? Of course, it could be your fellow Jew, it could be your friend, so-called friend, but he's not really a friend. So it's a metaphor. Yeah, it could be anybody. A metaphor just means take the teachings from it rather than go literal with the, could a pagan not be disruptive? Of course. Could a pagan be nice? Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Can you explain the story of the snake and the scorpion analogy? Jeff, where is the snake and the scorpion in what we just spoke about? I'm looking to see if I missed something here. Jeff, you have to elaborate. I'm not certain what you're making reference to. Jessica says, usually my children that are disruptive. That's true. But you see, that wouldn't work as a metaphor. Because sometimes when your kids are disruptive in the middle of your prayers, you actually have to pick them up and give them a hug. Because they're not disruptive because they want to derail you from your prayers. They're disruptive because something's bothering them and you're their mother or their father that, can give them comfort. So when we're speaking about the pagan, not looking for comfort from you, he's looking for to be disruptive. Pagan who doesn't believe in the oneness of God, right? So then again, that's the example, right? So children is not, yes, children just means it makes it more difficult to pray, but that's not a good metaphor because you might have to engage with them at that moment, right? Because they need you. In the example, they don't need you. They don't want you. And not only that, they just want to derail you from what you're doing. At least often praying the Shema over and over to focus. Okay, excellent. Yeah, it's a challenge. I have that challenge. Um, Jeff, you have something more to elaborate? Yeah. Um, maybe the second scorpion was in the next chapter, the story of the thing. Ah, okay. Right. Okay. Yeah, it's not. Peter's asking, what if you're OCD or ADHD? Right. What a good question. Folks, God only asks you to do what you can. But I'll go back to the metaphor of the commercials, right? It used to be commercials were a minute long because we could maintain a message for a minute long. Then they went down to, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 5 seconds. When it comes to prayer, know that you are talking to God, you're standing before God, and your words are precious. And whatever you can focus. Don't get, um, what's the word? Saddened. Don't get, you know, we all have a condition that God created us with. And God knows that. You're trying, you're focusing, you're trying to focus at least. And then you get derailed, thoughts enter. It's okay. Just try your best. Vida. Okay. Okay, Peter. Thank you for sharing that. As our thoughts disruptive measure for measure with our concentration of divine thoughts and disruptive animal thoughts. By the way, yeah, just to mention something, to just reiterate this point, um, you know what happens when I gain focus and I'm like I have minimal disruptive thoughts, and then the more I focus, the more the thoughts become stronger and more disruptive. That's a sign that you're actually praying better. The more you focus, the more you're going to have disruptive, stronger thoughts to come. That's the metaphor of a wrestling match, right? When one of the opponents, right, are strong in the moment, that brings an energy, right, to the other opponent to strengthen themselves, right? There's a burst of energy that comes, right? What's it called? Come to me in a moment. That comes to us to overcome our opponent. So that's what happens to the animal soul. The animal soul sees that you're praying well, and there's extraneous foreign thoughts that come that are not so strong, and you're able to push it away. Guess what? It brings you even more crazy thoughts. And that's a proof that your prayers are actually working. When does the animal soul not have to give you foreign thoughts? When you are anyways not focused. So it doesn't have to fight you. When do you feel the fight? When you're focused. When you're focused. The animal soul now is getting stronger in order to overcome your strength that you have focused more strongly. Darren, does praying require to have a decent dress? Well, you're standing before God when you pray. So imagine you're standing before the king. You want to dress appropriately. Now, if you came, if all you had was rags to wear, and you're standing before the king and asking and pleading for your life, but you're sincere. You're asking, I'm not doing well. I need help. You know, the sincerity is the most important thing that you're standing before God and asking. If you have nicer clothes to wear and you're standing before the king, so of course you should wear nicer clothes. If you don't, this is what you have. So God understands that. The question is about me. Am I respecting who I'm standing before? If all you have is rags, yeah. But if you have nice clothes and you're wearing rags, then why wouldn't you put on the nice clothes to show greater respect to who you're standing before? So, well, what does God need that for? You're showing respect to who you're standing before. If you stood before a king and you are a wealthy person, but you came with your t-shirt and shorts, and you're a wealthy person, how would the king think of you? Right? It means like you don't want to display respect. There's something about displaying respect, how you dress. And that's part of in Jewish law, when you're praying, that you actually, you want to show that. Thank you for Darren for that question. Lisa, how do we know that your best is your best? We never know, to be quite frank. Like people always say they're doing their best. Are we? I mean, we can't do better. That's might be not an honest statement. Could we do better? Can always do better. But don't become self-flagellation and like, oh, I'm terrible, I'm not good, I can always do better. That's not good. That's not a healthy thing. Um, that's not a healthy thing. So could I be better? Yeah, we could always be better. But yet I'm trying. I'm working at it. I'm a work in progress. BIT, Bainini in training. Yes, Lisa, thank you for that. Thank you, Frank, for the Frank account. As Jessica says, yes. Da lifnei mi ata oimei. Thank you for sharing that. You have to try to remember, know before whom you are standing. That's part of that's what the part of what's so important is to really believe that you're standing before God, right? Standing before God. So, and not only is standing before God, that's important, of course, but it's 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 a treasure that God that He cherishes the fact that you are talking to Him, you are connecting to Him. That's another important thing to believe, that it is a treasure. It's precious to God. I think that always before I stand before Shemona Esrei, that this is precious to God. If it's precious to God, by the way, does that mean my mind doesn't go astray? It does. Even with, I believe that. Am I sensing that throughout the prayer and my mind not going astray? It goes astray. Foreign thoughts come. It's a battle. Yeah. It's also paying respect to the sages who gave us the prayer. Yeah. Very good. Wow. Don't speak Lashon Hara even about yourself. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Peter. All right. Amazing. Amazing, everybody. Okay. We're going to Rambam. We're coming to the last part of Rambam, the laws of actually Mashiach. And Friday is the conclusion of Maimonides' teachings. I'll see you. Inviting everybody to come back and join teachings of Rambam, and we will start in a few moments. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from Chabad.